everyone, this is D2 Kasui, and I am so happy to be here with you today. You are a part of the Urban Financial Services Coalition Roundtable Podcast. The Roundtable Podcast. We are excited to be talking about reset. Reset. How do you reset your career? How do you reset your finances? How do you reset if you are an entrepreneur? How do you reset in terms of your leadership? Or maybe you want to reset in your community. Whatever you put after reset, that's what we are talking about today. And don't worry, I'm not here alone. I have some really good leaders that we're invited to the roundtable. And so we have a great group of individuals for this roundtable. So get excited, because this is just to whet your appetite on what will be coming forward in the future. At the Urban Financial Services Coalition, we always have the opportunity to bring leaders together. So the first leader that I'd like to bring up to introduce themselves is Mr. Walter Brown.
Hi, D2. Hello, everyone. Glad to be with you today. D2, I am an advisory board member with the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of the Urban Financial Services Coalition. I also serve on the national board of the Urban Financial Services Coalition. I am a granddad. Been in financial services since 1972. Right now, I run an active organization called WB Lending Solutions, headquartered in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we work in real estate finance, mortgages, strategy planning and consulting, primarily partnering with attorneys, CPAs, financial planners. Very interested in my community, my family. I also serve as chair emeritus of the advisory board over at Diablo Valley College here in the Bay Area. And I'm very excited about our conversation that we're going to have today, D2.
Absolutely. Welcome, Walter. So good to see you. You're looking well. I'm excited to tap into all those years of experience. Now, the next individual that we are bringing to the table, and he just happens to be a big Kansas City fan. Oh, my goodness. Anyhow, let's bring Theodis Watson to the table.
Hello, D2. Thank you for having me. As I mentioned, my name is Theodis Watson. I coin myself as the community's banker. I am a director of community development for a regional bank here in Kansas City, and just very excited to be here. I am currently the vice president of Urban Financial Services, the national chapter of Urban Financial Services Coalition, and very active with our local chapter here in Kansas City, who is, we coin ourselves as simply the best. But glad to be here. 20 plus year veteran in the financial service industry. I love it. I enjoy it, and certainly looking forward to continue to reset as we build and grow. Looking for like-minded individuals like those on this call, and we're here to have fun, enjoy, learn from one another, and educate, and that's who we are.
Absolutely. Welcome, Theodis. And my name is D2 Kasui. I am the advisory board president for Urban Financial Services Coalition National Organization. I've been in the industry, gosh, I think almost 25 years now when I think about it. I started in the financial services industry working for a major financial institution, and then transitioned to a governmental agency, and I have my own consulting firm. I've been in leadership roles in terms of the financial services industry. I've also been in leadership roles in terms of my fraternity. I've also been in leadership roles in terms of the community. So I have a deep knowledge of leadership and how leadership is impacted at all levels in terms of leading self, managing managers, being a business leader, organization leader, and specifically in this space around financial services, I've had a really good opportunity to practice, make mistakes, learn from mistakes, and build strong networks. So I'm excited about having this conversation with the two of you, because you are two extremely powerful people. And on top of that, you're well liked. So, Walter, since you have the most years of experience in our group, we're going to give you an opportunity to start off our reset conversation, give us some opening remarks, and then we are going to transition into discussing some of our thoughts about the current economy, current things that are going on in the financial services industry. So over to you, Walter.
Thank you, D2. Theo, it's good to see you. As we look at where we are right now, a lot of folks are just saying, okay, how do I navigate my life? How do I navigate my priorities to keep being effective, to keep being a self-actualized individual, to stay relevant, and to be able to do the things that I choose to do? So when I started in the business back in the old days, we had the 3-3-3 plan. The 3-3-3 plan was you took a 3-hour lunch, you took in deposits, you added a margin of 3% onto that to do your loans, and you got off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's what our 3-3 plan was back in the old days as bankers. So we took in deposits, we loaned those deposits out, we knew our customers, and now business moves at the speed of light. As we can see with what's just happened with Silicon Valley Bank and how they had an outflow of $42 billion in 24 hours. We can see in the last week with the medium-sized and regional banks, there's been an outflow of over $1 trillion in a week. So businesses are changing. Folks who worked at various companies, they thought they had a role and they no longer have that role. Their role is changing. And so we as financial professionals, we have to be nimble. We have to know the landscape. We have to have situational awareness. And so that means that we have to have a plan. And in this reset, part of that plan is how good is our research and development? How good is our intelligence? Who are the advisors that we have to talk to us about how we feel about things, how we feel about our company, how we feel about the role that we play in our company, how we feel about the value that we bring to our organization? What do people say when we're not in the room about our name? What is our reputation? And then on this other side of that coin, our success at work and our success at home. How are we navigating that? And for folks that are in this reset that may be caught, we've got a lot of folks who are in financial services who have gone to fintech. And programming, app design, understanding technology is an increasing important role of folks who used to go by the 3-3-3 plan. So the 3-3-3 plan doesn't work anymore. There are new plans that work today. At the Urban Financial Services Coalition, we're very interested in having conversations about what will work now and how folks can prepare for the future, move with the future personally and from a career standpoint. So that's where I start with this right now. And as was it Carter B. Woodson who said, know the rules better than anybody else? And I'll leave it there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Walter. Theodis, you want to jump in with some opening thoughts that you have?
Yeah, well put. Mr. Brown, you put out some nuggets out there, and it's not much to add, but one of the things I would say is that this is a great time to honestly be here, right? It's a great time to be in the financial service industry. It's a great time to be alive, the way technology is moving. But just being in a position of where you are at today, how are you resetting your mind, your focus, and your goals? And I think we can do that by having these conversations, not only at the workplace, but at home, around the coffee table, around the UFSC roundtable. And this is what we're here to do, is to create conversation, create content, and bring real life scenarios that affect all of us to the table. and learn how to navigate and continue to rise in our careers or in our passions, and not even rising, but if we're in a position to give back, to mentor, to pull up, we want to bring you all into this conversation as well. So we're here to have fun. We're here to learn, but definitely here to move forward. So I say this is edutainment and not just education and entertainment. So I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. See, Theodis is trying to take us back to Public Enemy.
Not never that.
They came a term. They had a term for edutainment.
Okay. I need to Google that.
Yes. If you've been around for a little while, you remember those kind of things. Yeah. And so thank you both. When I think about the word reset, I really think about my computer. When you have your computer and all of a sudden it gets locked up and you click on it and nothing happens and nothing's moving, then what do? You hit Control, Delete, Alt so that you can reset the computer. Sometimes when I have an electronic device and I just can't get it to work at all, I just pull out the plug and then plug it in, and that's a hard reset. So you have a soft reset and then you have a hard reset. And so I think depending on where you are in the financial services industry or where you are in life, sometimes you have a soft reset. And that might mean a relationship may have ended and you're transitioning, or your relationship is going through a break. Right now we decide, hey, we need a little break, from each other. Or maybe it's a relationship with a family member that you're just not talking, right? It's not ended, but you're just not talking and connecting. And then it could be at work where you're feeling like, things are not working. Someone may have been asked me, I didn't get that promotion that I applied for, that I interviewed for, or someone else got that job opportunity I was thinking about, or I might be moved, to another area, still with the company, but moved to another area. Yeah. That becomes, a soft, reset. And then some of us had those hard resets. Get that divorce, relationship is over. It is done. The lawyers are being called. People are making a run to the bank. Well, you don't have to run to the bank. They're running to their computer, make those transfers. They're trying to get on social media first to let people know so people can start picking sides.
I never got that. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens, right? Or it's, you get that notice and find out in the morning that the bank is done. And you didn't get the memo to make the run, to make that withdrawal, right? It's now in receivership, becomes a hard reset. Or, you get that pink notice, right? They tell you whether you come in, they used to have in the Jerry Maguire movie, they have a nondescript restaurant that they invite you to. They have you out in public and tell you your services are no longer going to be needed. That's a hard reset. Or, you take your key badge and you swipe it on the door and it don't turn green. That's a hard reset. Or, you come home and that's that big sticker on your home and say that your home is foreclosed. That is a hard reset. And whichever one that you're going through, here at Urban Financial Services Coalition, we like to say that you never have to do those resets alone. That it's good to have a community of folks who, one, are empathetic, that we are here to listen to the challenges that you're going through. And we're not here to judge you. We're not here to say, oh, you should have did this or you should have did that. We can't go back and change the past. But what we can do is we can listen to you in your current situation and then figure out how can we move forward and how can we leverage the relationship that we currently have with you? How can we leverage the relationships that we have with financial institutions or organizations? How can we leverage people in our network to help you make that reset and to move forward. So
D2, can I bring in a point right there with that?
Sure.
What you're saying? As we are looking to lift each other up, be supportive, hear one another's thoughts non-judgmentally. I'd like to go back to a Bible example in that regard. In the days of King Zerubbabel, the Israelites, the walls of Jerusalem were torn down, and the Israelites returning from Babylon, I think it was, they had to rebuild the walls, first of all, so that they could have a secure place to live where wild animals wouldn't be running through where they lived and where marauders and folks like that would not attack them. But the folks that came back to Jerusalem to live there again, they wanted to live in under the law of the God of Abraham, but they were also required to do something. They had to work on those walls. And if you remember, the scripture also said that they had a tool to rebuild the walls in one hand and a weapon for fighting in the other hand, because the surrounding nations, they didn't want them to rebuild that wall. And they would come in and raid them, and there would be skirmishes. And so these folks who came back to rebuild Jerusalem, not only was it about rebuilding, but it was about defending what they had. So as we have folks who come to us at the Urban Financial Services Coalition, they need to be ready to have that same role. They got to be ready to put something in the pot also. It's not just about taking anything out. And so this example of what happened in the Bible is a perfect example of how self-sustaining organizations operate today with good men. And there's a lot of strategy and doctrine around that whole thing in our modern time. But I just like to put that in there. We are absolutely willing to help, absolutely willing to listen, but it's a two-way street.
yes. And Walter, I like to use the word and instead of but.
Okay. Well, and
right, because when you say but, people forget everything you say before and they only listen to what you say after it. And I like the point that you're bringing up, because this is about reciprocity, right? Any relationship where there's no reciprocity, there's no sustainability, right? And so what we're saying here at Urban Financial Services Coalition is that we are the benefactors of folks who have put in the work and laid the foundation and gave back so that they could be a UFSC for our generation to be able to participate in. And so what I hear you saying is we invite people to the table, right? And we invite people to the table so that we could be a part of the solution in helping them so that they're a part of this community. And we're saying we want you to do the same for others, right? Because part of success, and I heard it for the first time from John Hope Bryant, the CEO and founder of Operation Hope. It's something that's said often, is that, success is the continuation of passing our contributions from one generation to the next.
yes.
So it really it really becomes our stewardship, right? And so we're inviting people to, hey, be a part of the community, take from the community and give to the community so that the next folks who are coming behind us or who are currently in can be able to participate. Theodis, what are your thoughts on that?
I was going to just jump in because we hear a lot about self-care. We hear a lot about sustainability, how our individuals are able to do these things at different levels. And just listen to powerful people like John Hope Bryant is, a part of self-care is, obviously believing in something, whatever you believe in, if it's a higher religion, yoga, whatever it is, I say do that hopefully keeps your cup full. But another part of that self-care is what are you doing for others, right? And how are you giving back? And how are you seeing some of the fruits of your labor continue to thrive, although you may not be in a position to continue, you're not in that thriving position, right? You're in that place where you are sustaining. And so those are some of the things I think our community miss. One of the values of Urban Financial Services is, you feel better when you see your fruits of your labor grow and blossom, and you see people be successful. And so that is exactly what I think we need as we're resetting as a community, coming out of the pandemic. Many of us were going to work while George Floyd and police brutality was happening. We still had to perform, right? We still had to create. We still had to lead the PPP for the bank or whatever your responsibilities were, right? In the midst of that. So, and then you got to come home and take care of family and responsibilities and things like that. So when it's time of resetting, what did you learn through that process? Who have you helped? And hopefully you're helping others and you're growing and you're seeing some of the fruits of your labor. You're building that community that will hopefully continue to help thrive and continue to further your legacy, as we'll talk about on this podcast. But I think that piece of it, of what Urban Financial Services does and what we bring to the table, is we're helping each other thrive through those situations. We're learning through those experiences. We're giving back and seeing the fruits of our labor. And there's more people out there doing that. We need to continue to connect and build those bridges. But no, it's a great time to be resetting in 2023.
Absolutely. And I want to hit a particular point before we transition to the economy a little bit more, specifically talking about some of the current bumps that have just come into the road. In terms of giving back, oftentimes people feel like they don't have anything to give.
Right.
And really, I would invite people to consider that there's always something that we can give. Sometimes we look at giving from the perspective of, can I give as much as somebody else?
Mm.
And so what I would invite people to consider is not equal giving, right? It's equal sacrifice. It's whatever you have to sacrifice, right? And I like to use the word sacrifice, whatever you have to invest. And sometimes old school, someone would bring the peas, someone would bring the tablecloth. So you never have to try to compare what you're giving to other folks. It's just give what you have. And so that might mean I'll be on the telephone committee. I'm gonna make a phone call because I can make a phone call, right? It might mean that I'm going to send some emails because I can send an email. Because I know a person. It might mean that I'm going to be on the line. I'm going to take attendance. It might mean I'm going to lend my location so a person can be able to have a meeting. And so we're really inviting folks to just give, invest what you have, and you don't have to do it the way you see somebody else doing it, or the way people have done it in the past. You just have to try to do what you have. Walter, over to you.
Real quick, Walter, I want you to jump in, but and I think I'm gonna stop saying give and invest, because you are investing in yourself and you're investing in other people. Being around people, I know I've invested in myself fully. And so made some good investments, made some bad investments, but at the end of the day, you're investing, you're active, you're moving, right? So that's very important that you said that, because giving back and investing in someone definitely pays more than their fair share. So good point. Walter, what you think about that?
Great points, D2, great points, Theodis. I'm reminded of something that one of the founders of the San Francisco Bay Area chapter, Robert Schaffner, said about investing. And I'm just going to really kind of transition in terms of being active versus investing in the organization. Robert said that he talked about the 3 W's in investing. You can invest work if you don't have money, and if you're new. You can invest, like D2 said, serving on the line or doing something else. Work was one. Wisdom was the second one. The third W, the second W, experience, what one has seen, how things get done, lending that to the organization, being a sounding board. Work, wisdom, and wealth. Person may not want to work on the line. Person may not have the time to put in counseling and being an advisor to the current leaders of the organization, but they may be able to write a check. And so those are different ways that one can invest. From my standpoint, I view the coalition as an investment because the organization has such a wonderful reputation that when one is active in a volunteer role, in a committee role, it lends to one's credibility. And so the organization from that standpoint is a very sound and high return investment. Were we going to kind of go into some of the topics at this point, D2? Was that where you're bringing me back to?
Yes, but before we do that, and I know we are terrible. We are terrible.
We got to watch our time too.
I know we are terrible. Let me just hit you with this really quick. I like the 3 W's, and I haven't heard it that way. The other way I've heard is the 3 T's, right? Your time, your talent, and your treasures. Right? Time, talent, and treasures. So now,
come up with my 3.
so we got the 3 W's and we got the 3 T's. So now, Walter, if you want to, just go a little bit back into, we've heard that, we had several banks a few banks, in the venture capitalist area and arena, went into receivership. You're out in California. Tell us, when you heard about the news, what came to mind? What are you hearing from people in your communities? And then we can throw it to Theodis to think about what he's been hearing as it relates to these banks, these particular banks, and the impact on the industry.
Okay, D2, thank you. I would also, in making these comments, say that I would encourage various members of the Urban Financial Services Coalition to have conversations with their associates about this and how it applies in their own circumstances, do some brainstorming, grow from these topics. What we have seen is that there's a saying, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so we're in a situation now where the Fed, the OCC, the FDIC, various state financial services regulators, the National Credit Union Association, the regulators around the insurance industry, the regulators around the securities and investment industry, the regulators around the commodities industry, the regulators around Forex and foreign exchange, the regulators themselves, the agencies, are having to backtrack and reset on how they are viewing the current economic landscape. There are conversations happening across central banks globally, the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations. They're all looking at what's happening right now and whether something is going to spread. Credit Suisse over in Switzerland, the number 2 financial institution in Switzerland is gone now. In Switzerland. And the Swiss government initially said, hey, we're not really going to get involved in this. They had to get involved. And so when we look at the mortgage meltdown, the financial crisis in 2008, when we look at Y2K in 2000, when we look at the savings and loan crisis in the 80s, when we look at the financial crisis in the 70s, When we look at in the early 80s, the prime rate going up to 20.2%, and checking accounts paying 11 and 12%, stagflation. There were different problems, different challenges. Folks know now, though, that you cannot sit on the sidelines. You have to get in actively right now. It's about confidence, because if folks lose confidence in a government, if they lose confidence in a regulatory system, if they lose confidence in an institution, things can go bad at the speed of sound and possibly speed of light. So the regulators are looking at how to keep things in place. There's a lot of conversation about supporting small and medium-sized banks to make sure that they're fine, depositors have no concerns, no worries. That conversation is still being sounded right now because folks are just not comfortable. So there's a lot of talk right now about things are fine. We're looking at what comes next. We're going to manage it. We're going to move through this. Now, for us as members in the Urban Financial Services Coalition, that comes with a couple of different layers. So for one of the benefits for me with the Urban Financial Services Coalition membership is that not only am I working with, say, an individual who just retired and they've got a couple $1 million and they're building their dream home and they're not looking at taking a full-time job for 6 months from now. Well, credit standards have collapsed. And so whereas they were looking at taking an easy loan, that easy loan is no longer there because the banks have pulled back in on what their lending guidelines are. So what that does for me as a financial consultant is it gives me a problem-solving opportunity. I have the opportunity to work with this person to help them to stay liquid, to identify other ways to fund their project to get things done. For a person in commercial banking, in a small or medium-sized company, as they look at conversations that they're having with folks like UD2, Theodis, myself, other members around the country, they can pull information, look at how do I upgrade my personal research program so that I'm a more knowledgeable financial professional. How do I, and then what does that mean? Okay, I'm in my bank. How do I make myself more valuable to my bank? What are my conversations with my supervisor? What am I researching? What am I doing? How can I be more valuable outside? Now, all on top of that, though, there's the underpinning, as Theodis referred to, our own personal life, our own family well-being, our own happiness, and what we're doing there, which is paramount. That's number one. Without that, as you said, D2, there's nothing else. But when we look back at the financial crisis of 2008 or 2010, when we look back at Y2K 2000, when we look back at the savings and loan crisis, one of the other things that we can talk about is there were some people who got very wealthy in those times. So it's, okay, how do we have this conversation? What are we looking at? Are we playing defense, offense, or are we just stuck in fear playing defense? We've got to play defense, offense. We've got to look at where are the opportunities right now, and we've got to be working with smart people in that regard. That's being done. So out here on the West Coast in California, banks are looking at their financial balance sheets. You know, you've got First Republic Bank, who they were fine, are fine, but now that crisis of confidence, some of their numbers weren't the best. They could have been managed through, but because of that confidence factor, the media focusing on them, they've got a problem. Now we've got Charles Schwab, who, they've got 70 trillion in assets. And because of the nuances of their portfolio, and here's the deal. As a member of the Urban Financial Services Coalition, I have conversations with C-level executives at Charles Schwab. I know what they did in terms of repositioning their portfolio. When the pandemic first started, they were working very hard on that. And right now, I know it's all hands on deck with them because they've got to get out of the media's attention. So it's about staying in touch with your customer, being visible. You know, we've got social media. Instagram, Twitter, those are very powerful tools that can be used. And for individual members of the coalition, branding about who you are, be it being a community volunteer, if you have a great hobby that you like, that you want to share with others. I just posted something the other day, me kissing my little granddaughter, right? So we need to be visible, we need to be doing things, but right now it's about being aware of the landscape, playing defense and offense, and having our research and our network activated.
Absolutely. Thank you, Walter, for sharing that. I know for some folks, when they woke up and saw what was going on in the market, it was difficult, for them. For some, they saw opportunity, and then in the Japanese language, the symbol for crisis is the same symbol as opportunity. So when people wake up every morning, there's two ways that we can see what we're going through. And just depending on what position that you are looking at it from will determine your perspective, and often will determine what actions that you take. So Theodis, what's your thoughts on some of the news? What are you hearing on the ground from folks when we heard about this situation?
Yeah, no, it's definitely ring alarm. Like many of you in the financial service industry, I'm sure many of your friends and family were probably calling you, asking you what was going on. But from our standpoint, obviously I'm from the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, but in Missouri, we're a little insulated, right? We're a little insulated from the outside market. And so I know the coast may be, everyone's informed and updated, but we have some strong mid-sized community banks, regional banks, always been in the top Forbes type banks here in Kansas City. And so we were viewing this as possibly an opportunity, definitely a time to educate customers what's going on. Obviously, the market is kind of going crazy. So there's some deposit, competition out there in regards to rates. Many of you might see that. Your bank may be offering some special savings, short-term rates or whatnot. So we do view this as an opportunity, but we also view this as an opportunity to educate and let our customers know things are fine with us. I know some of our competitors might have a different view because I'm sure they're receiving, you heard Bank of America and US Bank, they also did receive some large funding since this past week. So they're also viewing this as an opportunity, but it's also a great opportunity to credit control, look at what's going on internally. How are we watching costs? Because we know that a recession is coming in. So we are having those conversations. And hey, loans might, you go to your bank, they may be a little bit more conservative right now just because of, what's going on in the market. There's a lot of uncertainty, but there's still a lot of strong banks looking to do deals. So that's a little bit of that is happening out there from a credit side. So but this, I talk to small business owners all the time. This will be the time to gear up, tighten up. You hear the banks are being lean. You need to start thinking about being lean, paying down debt, things like that. Because again, we don't know what the next crisis, because we know what's coming, what may hit. So just want to be prepared for that. But one other thing I was going to bring up in regards to what we're hearing. Banks also are looking at ways to, because there was a lot of growth expansion over the past few years. You got funding for, the government incentives, the PPP money, things like that. So if you have an idea of how you can enhance and grow your financial institution, I'm speaking to UFSC members, this would be a good time to figure that out. There might be some initiatives you can jump on or find a solution for your current bank to how you can improve maybe their bottom line or their presence or whatever needs they may have. So we encourage you to seek that out. So yes, the Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank situation definitely rung an alarm. But one other thing I would add to that is our regulators, I'm sure, are going to be perking up as well, because how does a bank who was, I assume, we're going well. Normally these things don't happen overnight, but I'm sure there were some conversations. How do they go from thriving on a Wednesday but close on a Thursday? So there's some regulatory things that have to happen, I'm assuming, behind the scenes. So our regulators are really busy about how do we prevent this from happening again, and what did we miss? Because those things just don't happen. I think from our banking standpoint, we're leaning on them for some guidance so we don't see those same things happening. But also the regulators are looking at, what did they do wrong and how do we, allow this to happen? Because everyone has been saying that the rates are going up for the last, year and a half, 2 years. How do a bank of that size, top 20, number 16 or whatnot, how did this happen to a bank that size? So Missouri, we're good. We're still looking at the bottom line, but it hasn't hit us as tough as some of maybe the other markets. But I'm assuming some local banks are getting calls about some deposits and things like that, because I'm sure people are looking to park their cash somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you both for sharing. And when I looked at this particular type of situation, a couple of things came to mind for me. One, as financial professionals, we should be reading the news. I know people, I know some people and some self-help folks say, don't read the news. Well, you can't be a professional in your particular industry and you're not reading the financial markets. No matter what industry you're in,
Right.
The finances.
Or listen, you got Spotify. I have Wall Street Journal on my app. There's really no excuses. If you have it's a cell phone, I got the screen back here, but if you have one of those, there's no way that you are uninformed, right?
Absolutely. And so, but some folks spend most of their time, they might spend most of the time on social media, right? And they might just scroll right by the app. And so what I encourage, financial professional, no matter where you are in the industry, or if you're not a financial professional, but you are a professional, right? We want to be in tune on what's going in the market. We're not saying that you have to write a dissertation or do a PowerPoint at your next family meeting, but we want to say be informed. And so one part of your weekly learning plan, your weekly check-in is to make sure that, I have reputable sources of information where I can get information about what's going on in the economy and some insights on how this would impact my business or my organization that I work for, how this may impact my family. Like, does this have some impact on the financial decisions that we may make, or the plans that we've already had? Do we need to adjust our plans? Do we need to do some things different? Or, when I'm looking at my portfolio, how much of my portfolio is actually insured with has FDIC coverage, right? How much of my portfolio? Sometimes people we get laxed because certain rules were changed during the pandemic timeframe, or certain rules were changed because of certain things that were going on in the economy, and then those things changed back to regular methods. But we haven't looked at our portfolio. We haven't made that phone call to your advisory team and say, hey, I heard this is going on in the news, blah, 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 and the impact on so-and-so, right? Did you make that phone call? That's the first thing that came to my mind. And then I think of a person who is a professional and they have clients, instead of ducking the clients, call the clients. Call your clients, call your I think all clients are important, but there's certain clients that add, another level of value. And you call them, hey, I understand this. This is where you are. Here's the position. I love, there was a financial institution. They did a video. They did a post that talked about their strategy as an organization, their capital position. So that, if you had some concerns about their institution, they came out and said what their position is. And so I
Absolutely.
think organizations that did that were handling the situation well. And so I think as
Right.
financial professionals in industry, and if you're customer facing clients, this is a time to reach out to them, touch them, let them know that you are there for them and that your organization have this. And then as professionals or individuals who interact in the industry, that look, we're getting that news and we're able to address, and then we are reassessing our financial strategy and a plan. And then if you say, hey, I'm one of the people, I don't even have a plan. Well, you know what? Now it's time to get a
To
plan.
get a plan.
Right? We don't want
It don't have to be
people-
perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, it don't have to be perfect, but we don't want people operating without we don't want people operating fly by night, right?
Right.
I appreciate that I have professionals in my network that I can call on if I'm going to buy a home, if I'm going to do commercial lending, if I'm going to deal with a mortgage, if I'm going to deal with any particular type of aspect of the financial services industry, there's somebody I can call within the UFSC network. And if they can't do it, they know somebody
Right.
who is a subject matter expert, and I'll be willing to make an introduction, on my behalf so that I can get the news, right? I can get advice. I can get sound advice and not the barbershop advice, not my neighbors who we just happen to be out cutting the yard and they just talk about what they're doing. That these are, serious professionals who have years of experience in the industry and have credibility and are willing to help and to, be a part of the decision making that I make for my particular family. So anything else y'all like to add on it before we transition to our next topic, which will be focused on careers, what we're seeing in terms of how people are effectively managing their career. Any additional insights?
Well, D2, one other thing, listeners might be saying to themselves, okay, I'm a member of the Urban Financial Services Coalition. How do I tap into this network of subject matter experts that D2 is talking about? Well, if you are a volunteer, then you are already tapped into it. If you're not a volunteer serving on a committee or something like that, then you're not tapped into it. So you should be reaching out to us and looking at how to tap in. We have very important discussions on a monthly basis with our national leadership organization. And around the country, there are chapters that have organizations. So there are opportunities to tap into these experts that, for me, it's not just the folks in the Bay Area, but because of my involvement with the coalition, I'm able to be received well by people throughout California and from coast to coast, and in the United States Capitol as well. And that's some of the benefit of being an active member, like an investor, being an investor in the organization. So I wanted to put that in there. That's a how-to get connected. D2.
Absolutely. And I'll just add one piece on that. And this is back to reciprocity, right? And I'm gonna use another word. It's about relationships, right? Being part of an organization, one of the intangible benefits that's hard to quantify, those of you who are accounting, got their degree in accounting, about this term goodwill, right? Well, how do you get goodwill? You get goodwill by being in relationship with folks. And when you're in relationship with folks, some of that goodwill becomes credibility, right? Some of that goodwill becomes, hey, we work together. I know you, you know me, or I don't know you, but you know someone else. And if that person is making a phone call on your behalf, I am going to draft off of that person's credibility. And so how do you get that credibility? How do you get that goodwill? That is being a part and helping, doing the reciprocity, that is where you start to develop that goodwill. And so we all know and been a part, not just our organization or other organizations, where people are, we like to just call drive by, right? They're just driving through, right? They just need something and they want the organization to do all this for them, but they don't have the credibility, right? They haven't built up the goodwill with the folks. So we invite folks to come on in and start building up the goodwill. The best time to build up the goodwill is before you need it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's very important, and this is a great transition to the career, right? The career center, the career development. I can speak from experience where I know I wouldn't be in places or in positions if I didn't have relationships and didn't bring value to relationships who can get me through that next level. And so being in the commercial lending space, we hear this term access to capital, and we know it, we hear it, it's a buzzword and it's an issue in every metropolitan community, right? However, if you look at the numbers, very few minority commercial lenders in various spaces. Kansas City is 155 chartered banks. I was able to locate maybe 20 of us, in the space, right? So most banks have 30, 40, 50, commercial lenders if they're a large institution, right? So if you multiply that by 155 and, a city in any metropolitan city where access to capital is a challenge, then you understand why we're having the issues as far as the racial wage gap and all the other issues and historical challenges that we experience is so paramount. So going back to the transition of knowing your worth, building relationships, Urban Financial Services has helped me personally get into some doors by connecting with people who look like me, giving me the ropes, teaching me how to navigate, teaching me how to negotiate, being able to be a presence at the table, have a voice when you are at the table, and be confident with that voice is very important. And so we have a career center where you can employ all your resources as far as your experiences, and you don't have to be looking for a job, as D2 said. You don't have to be looking or wanting it now, but putting yourself in there, getting some help in how to navigate through the resume process, getting some training tips. We have those tools. Plus, we have people who can call to give you the same experience that you will learn online. It's so powerful. So we need that next level of people coming in, because we are seasoned veterans, and this is a great time to reset for those individuals who want to invest in themselves or invest in the organization. We need some younger, hungry folks to come up. And we got people like Walter Brown, D2, and myself who are here to support and lead that next generation, so we can continue to be at the table and make decisions and support organizations, cut checks when we want, and have the power to do so. That's the direction that we're going. And so just so grateful to be involved in an organization that has helped me personally and professionally. And we're looking for others to want to be invested in, and also looking for investors. So very excited about the direction of this reset. And there's a great opportunity in this time of challenge, to create some opportunity for ourselves and our community. So it's a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
And
right.
so while we're talking about careers, Walter, any thoughts, things you'd like to share for individuals who, are thinking about making a change in their careers, or looking to get promoted in their careers, or maybe, someone who's, been out the game a little while and economic situation has changed, and
Yes.
they have some, years of experience. They want to leverage their years of experience. Any thoughts that you may have?
Well, D2, I that's a big subject. I don't know if we kind of start that today, but I'm going to submit that we also pull that into reset as a next topic. But here's what I do have around the career piece. I spent 25 years in corporate America, working for Fortune 500 financial institutions, companies like Bank of America, the Principal Financial Group, banking, insurance. I have worked with the old industrial model of the more work you do, the harder you work, the more hours you do, the more effective you be. I'm one of those guys that would pull all-nighters. You know, I had a project, I'd stay there and work on it all night, 5 in.the morning, leave, go home to my family, kiss everybody, take a shower, shave, be back at my desk at 7:30 a.m. and do it again. So that's my history. I had some very interesting situations as a Black man where there were Black entrepreneurs early in my vice presidency roles where I had the stock option benefits, the title, people in the community helped me on high because of my title, expense accounts, where very established African-American business, real estate people, mortgage companies came to me and said, I'm getting ready to retire. I'd like to talk to you about taking over my business because I helped them in various ways and they knew my integrity. And I passed those opportunities by because I didn't understand what I was looking at. So here's another benefit of the Urban Financial Services Coalition right now in this call. If you are working in corporate America, understand that as much as you give to corporate America, they are going to give you as much as is good for the organization. So you've got to be good for the organization, but you've got to look at your own personal well-being and your own long-term plan. There may be people out in your community who look like Mr. S.B. Odell, one of the persons who offered me his business. His business is a landmark in the Bay Area now, that building. I did not take it over. He didn't have anybody in his bloodline to take it over. The business is no longer. But there are white people who own his property and they had put his name in front because he was such a powerful person and such a legacy. As people who are listening to this call think about their own situation and their career opportunities, look at your corporate opportunities, but also look at entrepreneurship. Look at where the opportunities may lie for you to take your accounting skills, your client relationship skills, and use those in a outside role, maybe as a financial planner, maybe as a commercial banking consultant, maybe as an adjunct to CPAs and the attorney community, maybe in a different business altogether. Maybe you want to go make cookies, right? Maybe you want to start a nonprofit, but look at, okay, what does this take? Who in that space are successful at that now? Mark that individual, look at what they're doing, emulate them, ask them for advice, go talk to them, look at people in that space. As Theodis mentioned, your smartphone, you've got all these apps, Spotify, Bloomberg, CNBC News. There's a wealth of information that's up to the minute that you can use. And D2, I would say that for individuals who say, well, I'm not really on the internet, I'm not really on social media, I really don't get involved in the news that much, you are a dinosaur. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you.
I like that.
You're a dinosaur. I love you, but you ain't gonna be here long. Okay? You just not. It's either act or be acted upon. And so from a career standpoint, we see people who have worked in banks and the banks are shrinking. They're offshoring their business models. They're automating their business models. We've got this chat GPT AI and clones that are doing the artificial intelligence work that we used to do as knowledge workers. So we have to retool ourselves. We have to learn new skills. We can't be afraid of it. We got to run into it and grab hold of it. In the financial crisis, where people were committing suicide at a record rate and so forth, companies like Airbnb were formed, Uber were formed. Record numbers of millionaires were created during that time and right now. So that would be an initial thought around career planning. Also, I would encourage people to look at an author. Her name is Candia Johnson. She does a lot of writing in Black enterprise. Candia Johnson. And she's got some really great how-to methods around increasing your effectiveness in your career, what to do. There is a LinkedIn influencer, and these also can be found through the Career Center. So I want to point that out to you. And I know D2 is going to come back to that. The Urban Financial Services Coalition Career Center has some huge resources as well. LaShonda Anderson Williams, take a look at her. She is the CEO of philanthropy over at Salesforce, one of my alums from Lowell High School in San Francisco. And she's got some great
We need to get
advice.
them on the round table. We need to
Huh?
speak that in existence. We're gonna speak that in existence. We're gonna get them at the round table.
Boom. That's all I got into. The oldest did that. That's it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm going to mention a little bit about the UFSC Career Center. I want y'all to get your closing thoughts together. So if you haven't been to the UFSC webpage, it's ufscnet.org. There's a Career Center there. And at the Career Center, there are a lot of tools and resources that are available. One is our career planning portal, right? On our career planning portal, you can put in any career in the financial services industry, and it will give you career insights. It will tell you what the average salary is. It will tell you about the best practices, the career paths to get there. It will also tell you jobs in certain areas so that you are armed with industry information. So say, hey, I want to be this in this market. I know what the salary is. So when I go in, I can have that conversation about, where I fall in the range. And so maybe, you say, hey, I've been in the industry a while and I've gotten promotions and I hadn't had to do my resume,
Right.
but now I got to do my resume. So through the UFSC Career Center, you can get your resume reviewed, and you can get connected to individuals who are actually, like I had mine reviewed and I couldn't make the changes myself, but I was able to employ someone
Right.
to make those changes, make those changes for me.
And to add on to that, so yes, the individual's looking for a new opportunity, but to you organizations out there who are looking for talent, saying that there's not enough talent, it's hard to find talent. I will say yes, and I will say no to that, because I think that there's plenty of talent. If you're looking for diverse talent, we have that. We can pull that into our portals, and so utilize us to help you find that as well. We're partners in this. We not only want to see our people succeed, we want to see organizations thrive, we want to see the economy grow, we want to see people be in great positions and create change and ultimately have a positive mindset or a viewpoint of the financial service industry. When people view us as an industry, we want that positive acknowledgement. So we encourage you, let's partner. If you have conversations, you have, CRA groups, and you're having issues with finding CRA supporters, we have organization that's been around for 50 years that we can be that support group for your organization. Again, we are partners in this. So not only to the individual, but we're talking to our corporate partners out there. We look forward to building that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about, Theodis, is matchmaking, right? That's basically what it is, right? It's a matchmaking place. So, as a government agency, you have a matchmaking event, right? People come with opportunities, and then people who can take advantage of the opportunities. And so UFSC is a matchmaker, right? And so in order to make that match, we need both ends of the equation, right? We need the employers who are looking for skilled, talented individuals who happen to be minorities in the financial services industry. And so one part that we're looking, right, role and responsibilities is for the institutions to put the jobs in there, right? Put the jobs in there and become a part of the UFSC family, be a part of the coalition, so that, hey, active job seekers, right, can find those jobs and apply for those jobs. And then we also say, how do you get to passive job seekers, right? And the passive job seekers is, I'm doing my job every day. I got my nose to the grind. I'm adding value to the community, right? I'm not really going to put my resume in a job board, even though the UFSC job board, you can post your resume anonymously. So if you don't want to have your company reviewing your profile and see that you got your shingle out, right? You can just post your job in there anonymously, right? And so when someone reviews your profile, they don't know who you are, but if they like you, they'll send an information to you and say, hey, we have a job opportunity. Would you be willing to open your resume? And you can look at that and say, oh, yes, I am open. Go ahead and give me that. And then so for the passive job seekers, see, UFSC, we have 5,000, right? We have 5,000 contacts. That means 5,000 relationships across the United States and Canada of financial professionals
in Canada.
And so we give opportunities for folks to reach passive job seekers, right? With information and there's various ways to do it, right? Whether you're highlighting your organization or where you're giving us information about the people who are doing well at your institution. Because what says that we value diversity other than promoting folks that look like them and for them telling the story about how the company is giving them an opportunity to make a difference and add value in the industry. Whatever the case is, we need both folks. We need the professionals to put your resumes in the Career Center and become a part of the network, right? Because we still do informal networking and connection. I remember, one of my very good friends, and actually he was one of the founders of UFSC Richmond. I remember he lost his job one day, made a phone call that night to a UFSC member. The next day, he was interviewing and got a job across the street, right? That is the network, right? And so we still have folks who come to us and say, hey, we have this job opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Are there people in your network? And we push those things individually, text message, phone call. Hey, Walter, this is going on. Do you have anybody in your market, in your network that you think this would, add value to? So we have the formal and the informal. But in order to make all that work, we invite people to be a part of the network. Okay, Walter and Theodis. Theodis, I'm going to let you go first. Closing thoughts that you would like to share with our audience from our CEO roundtable discussion today, where we talked about the economy, we talked a little bit about legacy, and we talked a little bit about careers in the financial services industry or career changes in the financial services. Any closing thoughts that you would like to share? And then I'm gonna throw it to you, Walter.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This is a great conversation. I am very grateful to be on this call and talk about these topics. Very important, learned a great deal. But my last few thoughts is talk about reset and legacy. We are in a interesting position to really resetting the legacy that we want to have. Obviously working with these two young brothers, their legacy that they left on me is very important. And so how do we continue to change the narrative and what's going on? We know that there's a lot of foolishness, a lot of, things happening out there, but there's a lot of great things happening too. So I think we need to focus on the great things and really focus on how we empower, how we grow, how we leave that legacy, how we continue to create value to one another. It can be a little bit or a lot of it. As long as there's something being invested, it's very important. So I'm just happy to be able to change the narrative in our industry. There's a lot of negative things. Let's focus on the positive things. And how do we talk about those negative things to create opportunities for others? But I'm just grateful. I'm looking forward to doing this again and love to hear the feedback as individuals. What do they want to hear? What do they want to see? Who do they want to bring on? Who they think will be a good addition, who can bring value to our conversation? We want to hear all of that. So I'm just looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Theodis. Walter, closing thoughts.
I am excited about this first of a series of conversations. You know, we're in a time that people are going, things are not normal. I'm not sure how deep or how, will we have a soft landing or a hard landing? I don't know if I'll have a job or not. I don't know if my business will be okay or not. I don't know if my spouse is going to put up with me or not. I don't know if I'm going to maintain my own personal wellness or not. What is my spirituality like? And so we can play defense, but in this conversation, we're talking about playing defense and playing offense. Right. And talking about not just letting things come on us, but coming and being forward looking and taking the actions needed. And we're talking about a number of different segments: our personal financial planning, our career planning, job opportunities, entrepreneurship. So we got a lot of exciting things to talk about coming up. And the last thing is fear, right? That can mean one or two things: false expectations appearing real, or face everything and rise. I choose the latter. I invite everybody to invest in the latter. If you want to come along, you come along. If you don't want to come along, things are going to move anyway.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Theodis. My closing thoughts is I would ask the question to all of you: Are you playing a finite or infinite game? Which game are you playing? Simon Sinek wrote this book called Infinite and Finite Games. And no matter which game you're playing, you got to know the game that you're in. And when you're playing a finite game, you know, you get really focused on just the game, right? Just the current game that you're in. Maybe it's trying to get a promotion. Maybe it's trying to, you know, get a spouse. Maybe it's trying to get your child to one milestone. And then you play by all those particular rules and you celebrate success, but you don't have significance. And so when we play an infinite game, we know that there's a series of wins, and if we lose just one game. You know, if we win one game. Right. And when we're talking about building wealth, and we're talking about generational wealth, and when we're talking about equality, and when we're talking about, you know, having a place in a world where our daughters can get paid equally and have equal opportunity, we talk about a place where everyone has an opportunity to be their best, then we're playing an infinite game. And that means we can't rest on our laurels, that we will celebrate our successes, learn from our downfalls, but keep moving forward to make progress. So thank you so much. Please put your thoughts and ideas in the chat. Well, not in the chat, but in the comment section. You know, we're not thick-skinned. I mean, we are thick-skinned. We'll be happy to hear your thoughts, and be looking out for our next UFSC roundtable discussion. Gentlemen, have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Take care.